You are listening to the It's Your Time podcast, and I'm your host, Certified Life Coach Michelle Arnold Burke. In today's episode, I'm discussing human design, the permission slip you didn't know you needed. Welcome to the It's Your Time podcast, the podcast where busy professionals like you get the practical solutions and support you need to gain control of your schedule so you can strive to be the best in your career, but without the stress and overwhelm. If you're looking to increase your energy and decrease your stress, you are in the right place. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast, friends. I am so excited for today's conversation because I am going to be talking about something that I freaking love. And honestly, something that I think is one of the most practical, I would even say eye-opening tools that you can use when it comes to understanding yourself, your relationships, how you work, how you earn money, and what actually makes you feel alive. We are talking about human design, and it's kind of like a user manual for you, specifically for you. Okay, so let's jump in. Now, what even is human design? It is a system that pulls from several different ancient and modern frameworks. So think astrology, the I Ching, Kabbalah, the Hindu chakra system, and actually some quantum physics. And it sounds like a lot. Honestly, it kind of is a lot, right? But the way it comes together is so surprisingly specific to you. And here's how it works. You plug in your birth date, your birth time, and your birth location, and it generates what is called a body graph chart. And by the end of this, I am going to send you to a website where you can check it out yourself for free. But the chart is essentially a map of how your energy moves, how you're designed to make decisions, how you're built to interact with the world, and where you're most likely to get tripped up when you're not operating as yourself. And now here's the thing that really kind of hit me the hardest when I first learned about this. So much of what we call performance problems, right? Things like burnout, frustration, feeling stuck, feeling like you're working so hard, but something's still off. A lot of that actually comes from operating in a way that's fundamentally against your design. You are not broken. You might just be living someone else's blueprint. And that right there, living someone else's blueprint, that is the whole premise of Performance Rewritten. It's not about doing more, and it's not about pushing harder. It's also not about totally just sitting back and, eating your bonbons all day, right? It's more about actually understanding how you work and then building your life around that instead of trying to fit yourself into some generic mold that was never really made for you to begin with. So I'm just going to go into some very basic information about human design on this episode. But once you actually get your body graph, you can totally go to AI and really dig into it. You get into the weeds, but I would suggest just starting with some of the basics because honestly, for me, just learning some of the foundational information was such a game changer. It is like giving yourself a permission slip to be yourself. And specifically, one example for me is that oftentimes people would tell me to relax. And I would always say, relaxing is not relaxing. And what I found out was that as my human design is designed as a generator, like that totally makes sense. So let me jump into what the different types are when I'm talking about myself as a generator. So probably the most foundational piece of human design is understanding what your type is. And there are 5 of them. Each one has a completely different energy and a different strategy for moving through life and a different signature that tells you when you're in alignment. So let's start with manifestors. About 9%, I think, of the population are manifestors, and these are initiators. They're here to start things, to make things happen, and to have impact. Manifestors have this big, powerful energy that can feel a little intense to people around them. And honestly, most manifestors have spent their whole life being told to slow down, ask permission, or explain themselves. And the strategy for the manifestor is to inform, not ask permission. Just let people know what you're doing. And when they do that, people just get out of their way. When they don't, they hit resistance everywhere. Their signature, meaning the feeling that they get when they're in flow, is peace. And their not self theme, meaning when they're off track, is anger. The next type we'll go to is generators, and that's roughly 37% of the population. Generators are the builders. They are like the workhorse, the life force of the planet. They have sustainable energy, like a battery that recharges when they're doing work they actually love. The key for generators is to respond rather than to initiate. And they do their best when something lands in front of them and their gut says yes. And then they go all in. And when generators are chasing things their gut didn't really say yes to, they end up exhausted and frustrated. And frustration is actually their not self theme, and satisfaction is the signature. Next, let's hit up the manifesting generators, about 33%. And think of these as a hybrid. They have the life force energy of the generator, but the capacity to initiate that's closer to the manifester. They're often multi-passionate, fast-moving, nonlinear, and they might start maybe 5 different things at once, skip some steps, and then somehow still get there faster than everyone else. Society tells them to slow down and focus, but their design is actually built for that kind of multi-track energy. Strategy is similar to generators, respond first, but they also benefit from informing, like manifestors. Their not self theme is frustration and anger, and the signature is satisfaction and peace. Projectors, another type, about 20% of the population, and projectors are the guides. They are here to see people, really see them, and direct energy well. They don't have the consistent hustle energy that generators have, and that's by design. They're built to work in focus bursts and then rest. And their challenge for projectors is that they're often trying to keep up with generator energy, working long hours, initiating, pushing, and they just can't sustain it. Their strategy is to wait for the invitation, especially for the big things like relationships and career moves. And when they're invited and recognized, they thrive. And when they're not, they feel bitter. Bitterness is the not self theme, and success, real recognized success, is the signature. It's so fascinating. Not that long ago, I had a colleague do her human design, and she was a projector, and she just said, it makes so much sense. And let's just finish out here with reflectors. This is the rarest of the types, and I think it's about 1% of people. Reflectors are like mirrors of the community that they're in. So they literally reflect the energy around them, which means their moods, their health, their inspiration. It can all shift a lot day to day depending on who they're with. The strategy for reflectors is to wait for a full lunar cycle, so like about 28 days before making big decisions, to give themselves time to really feel a decision from all angles. And their not self theme is disappointment, and their signature is delight, surprise, and a real sense of wonder at life. Now, I'm going to hop into the profiles. So there are different types of profiles. So profiles are more about the how you move through life, what your overall trajectory looks like, how you show up in the world, and profiles are made up of 2 numbers pulled from the 6 lines of the I Ching, and you'll see them written like a 2-4 or a 5-1 or a 3-6, and each number has a quality, and together they create a kind of personality architecture. So here's a quick rundown of the 6 lines. Line 1 is the investigator. These people need a solid foundation. They research, they prepare, they want to know things deeply before they feel secure. And if you're a line 1, you probably hate being caught off guard because your design literally needs that groundwork. Line 2 is the hermit. These are naturally gifted people who often don't even realize that they're good at it because it comes so easily, and they need alone time to recharge and do their best work. And they tend to get called out for their hermit cave by others who recognize their gifts before they do. Line 3 is the martyr, and I want you to drop any negative connotation around that word for purposes here. Line 3 people learn by trial and error. They're here to figure out what doesn't work so they can show everyone else, and their life will look messier and more experimental than others, but that's not a flaw. That is the design. Line 4 is the opportunist, and these people build their life through their network. Their opportunities come through people they know, not just cold outreach or going wild. They need a solid foundation of relationships, and when they have it, things open up in a way that can look almost effortless to outsiders. Line 5 is the heretic, and line 5 people are here to offer practical solutions, and they often get projected onto. People put a lot of expectations on them, sometimes unrealistic ones, and they have this magnetic quality that draws people in. And the key for them is to be careful about whose problems they take on. And line 6 has 3 distinct life phases. The first third of the life is very much like a line 3. So back to the trial and error and the experimenting. Then they kind of pull back and observe from the roof, take stock. And the second half of the life, they become the role model, someone others look to. Line 6 people often feel like late bloomers, but they're not. They're just on their own timeline. I am a 6-2 generator. So listen, it's all our time, right? I'm on my own timeline. A late bloomer, some may say, which, side note, my nieces always tell me it's a good thing I didn't peak in high school. So I will take it all as cosmic alignment. And when you do combine the 2 profile lines, you are able to just have a deeper understanding of what that human design is. So for a 2-4, let's say, for example, that's the heretic and the opportunist, someone who needs deep alone time to recharge, but whose success comes entirely through relationships, which can feel a little bit like a contradiction, but it's actually a really beautiful tension when you understand it. And a 5-1 is the heretic investigator, so someone who needs to know their stuff deeply and is then called to bring practical solutions to others. The profiles just add like an extra layer of texture to the types. And then 2 people can both be generators, for example, but if one is a 1-3 and one is a 6-2, they're going to live and work very differently. It's fascinating because Mark and I are both generators, but we are definitely different profiles because we definitely operate on different systems. Here's the fun part. You can actually figure out what your partner is or what your kids are, and it just might open up some new ways of figuring out how to best relate to them and communicate. I actually had a client years ago who looked into her daughter's human design, and she said it changed how she parented, and it was so much easier. So I highly recommend, like, for sure, get to learn more about yourself, but then have some fun with it, whether it's your coworkers or your family members. It can be so much fun. And here's where it does get personal, right? Because I talk a lot about performance rewritten and the idea of how we've been taught to perform and to show up and to succeed. And it's often just wrong. Or, I guess more specifically, it's wrong for us individually. It was built on this generic model, right, that assumed we all operate the same way. But human design blows that up entirely. It literally gives you data rooted in the specifics of when and where you were born that says, this is how your energy works. This is how you're designed to make decisions. This is what success actually looks and feels like for you. And a lot of people, when they first read their chart, feel this wave of relief. That is exactly what I felt. Like, oh my gosh, I'm not the problem, even if Morgan Wallen says so. I was just trying to run somebody else's race. That's not just a feel-good idea. That's actual neuroscience that's behind why operating against your nature is so costly. Research on cognitive load and decision fatigue tells us that when we're constantly working against our instincts, maybe suppressing our natural responses or pushing through in ways that feel fundamentally wrong, we're burning through mental and emotional energy at a much higher rate. The brain is working harder to maintain something that isn't natural. And over time, that shows up as burnout, anxiety, and that constant low-level feeling of just being depleted, even when things look fine on the outside. You just feel like there's got to be more to life than this. And when you start operating with your design instead of against it, that's when the mental overhead drops. Things start to feel more easeful, not because life got easier, but because you stopped white knuckling your way through it. And what about relationships? I had mentioned it really is one of my favorite places where human design can deliver, because once you understand your own type and profile, you naturally start to get curious about the people around you, and understanding that your partner is a projector and needs to be invited, not bulldozed with your manifesting generator speed. That changes the conversation. Understanding maybe that your colleague who seems distant is probably a line 2 who just generally needs alone time to think. That's not maybe a personality conflict. That's just different designs. And understanding why your kid is relentlessly experimental and seems to learn only by doing things the hard way, that might just be a line 3. Human design doesn't give you a script for other people, but it does give you a framework for maybe less judgment, maybe more curiosity, and that alone can transform how you move through relationships. And let's talk about what I love to mention here: wealth, wellness, and wild success. And when we're thinking about wealth and wellness and that wild success that feels like it actually belongs to you, that is the key. So, on wealth, so much of what blocks people from building real financial momentum is that they're trying to operate in this earnings model that just doesn't match their design. A projector who's trying to hustle like a generator is going to burn out and likely sabotage the very opportunities they were meant to be recognized for. And a manifester who waits to be told what to do is going to feel suppressed and underperform. Understanding your type helps you look at what you're meant to create and how you're meant to create it, whether it's through initiating, through responding, through being invited, and build from there. And think about like on wellness. Human design has a concept called your authority, which is basically how your body is designed to make decisions. So some people are meant to trust their gut, and some are meant to sleep on things, and some are meant to talk it out. Some maybe need to feel it in their body. And when you're ignoring your authority and making decisions from your head, especially under pressure, that's where we get into choices that might look good on paper, but feel bad in real life. And chronic stress, physical symptoms, that thing where you know something's wrong, but you just can't name it, a lot of that is misaligned decision making over time. And what about wild success? Wild success in Performance Rewritten framework isn't about hitting some metric someone else defined. It's about building a life that actually fits you. And human design is one of the most specific, personalized maps that I have ever come across for figuring out what that even looks like. It's just a great opportunity. So many women, and I have been guilty of this, and I still work on it, is really taking a moment to think about, what does success mean to you? What do you want in your life? And even if you just get started by looking at your human design map, it might just open up some sparks and ideas and an opportunity to say like, hell yeah, I think that sounds great. And a lot of this work we do here is work-life integration, right? Not balance. And I'll say this quickly because it matters. The word balance to me implies that work and life are opposites and that you're constantly trying to keep it all equal. It's exhausting. Work-life integration is about weaving things together in a way that makes sense for how you're built. And human design is a tool that supports that integration because it doesn't separate who you are at work from who you are at home, whether you're in a meeting or making dinner. It's one you. And when you understand how that one you operates best, everything starts to flow with a lot less friction. So, where to start as we start closing up here? If this has your brain going like, yeah, I do want to check this out, pull your free chart. You can go to Jovian Archive or My Body Graph. I have done Jovian Archive in the past, and that's typically what I mention here. Again, no affiliation. It's free. It's just where I started. Both are free, and both will give you a chart. You'll, again, need your birth date, your birth time, and your birth location. And the more accurate the birth time and the more accurate the chart, the more accurate your information will be. So start with your type. Just sit with it. See if it resonates. And then just keep building from there because it's absolutely so much fun. Okay, friends, that's what I have for you today. Let's meet back here next week. Remember, you're here to perform like yourself, not everybody else. And knowing your design, that is one of the best places to start. So go check out your chart and let me know what you find. I would love to know. Okay, that's what I have for you today. Let's meet back next week. But for now, lead your life with intention because it's your time. Make it a great day. Take care. Did you know you can take this work to a deeper level with me one-on-one? Go to michelleburtcoaching.com and click on Get Started to begin.